official. We're back on recording. This is part two of our Are We Sexploitationists? Or we were also saying, do we want to be sexploitationists? So I have an opening question for you.
Right.
What strikes your fancy?
Well, when we're talking about Turbo Pit Fighter, we're talking about
Yeah.
a story that I developed 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. I think I started working on it 25 years ago, maybe more. I saw a definite lack of female protagonists, especially strong women, whether or not they were muscular women, there was just a lack of strong women back then. And I'm kind of like a historian for comics and pop culture. I used to write articles. This was more like in the 2000s, but I used to write articles about the history of all-girl bands and female musicians because that was another space where women were never given their due, and there was a surprising amount of women doing rock and roll music and garage rock and punk rock and everything, playing their own instruments. They just weren't getting anywhere. They weren't getting where the guys were getting. It was like always a glass ceiling. So I'll never forget. I took when I was finishing up my master's work to become a teacher. I got to take a couple of electives, and I took this elective, women in film, and I was expecting to see like Thelma and Louise and all of these groundbreaking movies, and learn about feminism and all these strong characters. And basically it was just like a review of all of these movies where women were just kind of like victims. Like they made us watch like Lolita, and they made us watch all these movies where, it was about a woman. That we saw like some older comedies from the 40s where, a woman had a groundbreaking role because she was funny. She was allowed to be funny. She wasn't just a supporting character. She was, a main character. But it has been a very long road, and in terms of comics, you know, I put together a slideshow for my students. I have the history of superheroines, and the women that came before Wonder Woman that a lot of people don't know about. Um, they were all lost in history, except maybe Hawk Girl is probably the only one that people might know of. But she was just kind of like the female analog to Hawkman, and there was a lot of characters like that. You know, and an interesting sidebar too. We were just talking in the last episode. If folks want to go back and hear it, about the She-Hulk. The way the She-Hulk was developed was a funny story too. Talking about Stan Lee again. He had this deal with CBS to do the Hulk, and a lot of these deals did not have a lot of legal specifics in them. And once something becomes big, like the Lou Ferrigno series, then people start to say, "Oh, let's take this and let's maximize it." And so Stan Lee was hearing rumors that they were going to do an episode that had the She-Hulk, and he said, "Wait a minute! If they do that, they're going to own the rights to it." And so he called Roy Thomas and whoever was his editor at the time, and he said, "We got to put out She-Hulk #1 like now." And so it was rushed together. And if you remember, John Buscema had the cover of that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Remember? And
Yeah.
these are things that they just rushed out there in a desperate scramble to beat the other guy to the name and the characters, so that they would own the licensing, because they knew that this would be tens or if not hundreds of millions of dollars in perpetuity, down the road, just based on the numbers that they were making then, because the Incredible Hulk TV show was making tons more money than the Incredible Hulk comic book, right? And those are all partnership deals, but each side is trying to maximize their gains. So um, that is the quick origin of the She-Hulk and Spider-Woman too. Same exact story for Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
They just rushed it out there, and they said, we'll worry about it later. We'll get a team to write a backstory later, but let's just put something out there. Let's get a number one and publish. And of course, all of us little kids, we were like, oh, look, let me buy this. The number one, oh, a character. Wow, they must have really thought about this a long time. So, and that's a lot of it in TV too. Like, it's the Suzanne Summers syndrome, right? When you see a character dying, a main character dying, it's not because they sat down and said, this is going to be compelling story for our audience. Is because the actor didn't re-sign at the price that they wanted, so they cut them loose, and they're killing their character off. That's what happens if you don't play ball with the executives.
The big boys.
Right. So yeah. So just I was always just toying around with a muscular lead character who kicks ass. But at the same time, the trophy girl was always part of it, and so it's like just I guess a lesbian couple, and and the tension of the the hetero girl not necessarily being a lesbian. What must that be like, as a story develops, and so. We're gonna have to get into that. You and I, we're gonna, I don't even because, I haven't even peeked ahead at what I wrote for issue like past issue 2. What happens, and we might have, and a lot of the blanks have yet to be filled in anyway. Because I just have these very brief synopsi. Um, right? It's here. This is the process, folks. We're just on issue 2, and we're blocking it out, and this is going to be issue 3 here. So we don't even know what's going to be in these later pages, or if we did, we totally forgot. And
And I would like to
yeah,
add, because we've mentioned this before. I think the thing that we're also really interested in is, I just say, writing ourselves into corners. So, the once we have this out there, and there's a fan following coming along, I really do enjoy having the feedback. The what if, oh, or just the questioning, like, what's her favorite sandwich, or
yeah,
just the world building that you know automatically happens to a fan when they really get into it. And
yeah. I mean,
going back to the sexploitation thing, you made a statement where it's like there's not a lot of story in sexploitation pornography, because it really just needs to have one result, for the reader, and then there you go, and the next time you're off looking for something else, and then it's fetishized and so on and so forth. But yes, I'm with you on the, wouldn't it be interesting and challenging as artists, comic books, to come up with something that has more substance to it, but is still maybe going to be categorized as sexploitative. We're going to use sexuality, this is what sexploitation is, in order to gain attention.
well, is is Supergirl sexploitative? Is Batgirl sexploitative? I mean, we know Red Sonja is sexploitative. You
You
know,
know, but that just to jump in, the reason is because of the chainmail bikini, because it had no protective quality as armor should have. It actually left her more wide open
it's a
for
joke.
taking
Yeah,
bodily harm, you know, but it sure as hell, and I'm one of them, made you pick up those comics.
yeah, especially when Barry Smith rendered her, right? Barry
Yeah.
Windsor Smith. I mean, when you get into
It
the
was Espion. Oh my God. What is it? Morato.
Esteban
He
Maroto.
was, yeah, Esteban Morato was the individual who actually came, and it was for an ad. It was just, it was something to help push
Wait,
in the back of the
is
black.
this a historic true story?
Yeah, yeah, it was that.
But
And then somebody was like, because she had almost like she wore the same. I think she had. Oh man, now I'm getting all confused because I'm thinking of Valeria too. But
yeah,
yeah,
so people should know that Kurt is kind of a Conan aficionado, or should I
kind
just
of.
should I,
Well, okay, I'm not. I'm not. Yep, I'm not.
or should I just say like barbarian aficionado in the first place?
Oh, I'm just obsessed with sword and sorcery. I mean, the whole,
I think I
you
just
know, the whole thing, and it is, and I will openly admit, it's just for the romp. You
uh-huh.
know, I'm not. Well, the reason I love Conan the Barbarian is he's a, let's say, normal or average human being without superpowers that goes up against supernatural forces and wins.
Right.
So that was always something that I started becoming more attracted to because I never really fell in love with anybody as a superhero with superpowers. So, and then it just kept tumbling. I mean, the black and white comics, the magazine, Savage Sword of Conan from Marvel was instrumental because I had gone to a comic book yard sale at the My Comic Book store, and right when I dropped my bike and walked to the tent, I looked down and just, that was the thing. You just went through the long boxes and stuff. And this was a very short box, probably the smallest of the comic book holding boxes, and it was holding magazines. And it was the first 100 issues of Savage Sword. And the
What?
guy came up, yeah, and I still have them all.
I
He said, "Oh, you interested in it, kid?" And I was like, yeah, I'm just a kid." And he goes, "How much you got in your wallet?" And I'm like, $20. He goes, "I'll take it." And I'm like, okay. Now, I used to buy comics by the page count. And one of the things about black and white comics is that not that they were that much different in price. You just you got a lot for your buck. But man, I made my brother take half of them
hmm
because we had bikes, and but yeah, I ended up with the first 100. Oh, it was Savage Tales,
right.
which I think is 12 issues, and then that becomes Savage Sword of Conan, and then couldn't wait for the next issue until they got, I guess, until I got to like college or something. But yeah,
So yeah, so the headline is just this couple weeks ago here, May 18th. Conan the Barbarian is leaving Marvel.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and it has not been determined where they're going to land.
No, he's gonna the guy who owns it is wants to. The rumor is he's gonna start his own publishing company.
Oh, the guy that owns it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it's probably
yeah.
smart to do that.
There's Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think a lot of the frustrations he's been having with the property is he's just not getting the media companies to either listen to him or follow through on what it is that he wants, or
Is this
I hear
Robert E.
he's
Howard's kid or something?
no, 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 no. I don't know much about him, or I just know that this one individual ended up buying.
The estate
Well,
buying
I don't know if it's so much buying. It was
the catalog.
so the whole thing is that this goes into the public domain.
Ah,
So this is Conan the Cimmerian is in the domain, not Conan the Barbarian. And then so there was some fast backdoor deals that you know Conan International Properties was put together, and then Bob's your uncle.
right,
You
right,
got all
right.
this.
And we're gonna get into that with all of the characters eventually. We're gonna get into that with
Yeah.
Superman and Batman eventually. And the funny thing is how political it gets. Disney right now is having they had their spat with the Republicans over the "Don't Say Gay" bill, and the Republicans, Senate Leader Mitch McConnell told Disney, listen, if you want your copyright protections for Mickey Mouse and Superman, I mean, they
Wow.
don't have super. DC doesn't. I mean, Disney doesn't own Superman actually. But if they say, if you want your copyright protections for Disney, they do have apparently all of these carve outs, legal carve outs that are approved by the federal government.
Yeah, man.
So
It's all dirty.
and so they got on the wrong side of Mitch McConnell, and now they're might be in danger of losing them. We'll have to see how that plays out. But there's a lot of money at stake because if Mickey Mouse goes public domain, that means you and I can put out a Mickey Mouse comic tomorrow,
No, thank
and
you.
we can't be sued. Yeah, but the same thing's going to happen for Batman and everything. I mean, Mickey Mouse is 1929. So then a couple years later, you get into 1937, it's Superman, and then 1939 is Superman, and then you
Yeah.
19.
So, but staying on track, I just want to, because I'm hoping that this conversation, as we're moving with the sexploitation and female body types and all of that, we can start talking, just sort of where we see it in the very short future, foreseeably, where Turbo is going to end up
Yeah, I mean,
fitting in.
yeah, I mean, we have a character who's muscly, and she's a pit fighter, and she fights, and we have to take care of our character, and if you have a good story, you have characters that grow, and maybe address some of these things within the story, so that she's like a real person in this world that she lives in, and maybe there's others like her that we'll find out, and
So here's an interesting thought that just crossed my mind. Um, did you ever get into Xena, Warrior Princess?
uh, I mean, I probably got an endorphin rush when I saw the cover, but oh wait,
Well, the television,
oh yeah, no, that's
television show.
Lucy Lawless, right? Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I
And
know
her side.
I know that is a cult following there. Yeah, definitely.
But it's a perfect example of something that starts off broad in general because it was a spin-off of the Kevin Sorbo Hercules series. She was sort of the evil, one of the evil characters, and I guess people were writing in saying, "We want to see more. We want to see more of Xena, Warrior
Mm-hmm.
Princess," and so they do show more. They give her own season. Um, I, I thought it was really good, and if I get beaten up for saying this, oh well. And one of the reasons is I love camp. I love low budget.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things I'm always chasing around is stuff that reminds me of Doctor Who, and that the stories are strong, the characters get stronger
Mm-hmm.
as they keep moving along through all of that. And I think it fell into the same category. And then for being old, can't remember her partner, her sidekick. Ah, God, I could see her. You look. It was. Anyways, but there was this suggestion constantly, and then towards the end, they leaned into it that there was a lesbian type love affair between the two of them. So
Ah,
it's yep.
yeah. Well, it was always there. It's just, they just announced it officially. Um, so yeah, I mean, we're in different times now. LGBTQ is mainstream, and Supreme Court ruled on gay marriage and gay rights, and I mean, they're the countries at the same time. You got half the countries trying to take a step backwards, the other half of the country is trying to take a step forwards, and talk about trans rights and all that. But that's America. We're many contradictions at once, and
We're fluid.
yeah, right. And so comics are part of that. Um, the Marvel comics. There's been complaints that they're just putting gay characters in there to be like social justice warriors, and they're ostracizing their evangelical fans, if there are any. you know I don't know. To me, it's just, if you're just change, like, there's a big complaint right now about Pride Week. It's getting commercialized. I'm watching the ball game last night, and they're like, coming soon, Pride Week, Pride Day. And it's like they get these corporate sponsors, and is it really the spirit of, the Stonewall riots and equality and everything, or is it just like, oh, we want to sell some merchandise with rainbows on it? So so there's that. And so yeah, we have to think about that for our story. I mean, I don't even know where it's going to go. We only have, we have two issues fleshed out. You have one issue done as far as pencils, and we're fleshing out the second one as we speak, literally on the air. And where's it going to go? We're going to have, this is a story about survival too for the trophy girl, and she doesn't have the fighting ability of Turbo, and she's going to have to decide. And I'm drawing her right here. She's going to have to decide how to survive in this world, and Turbo seems to be her protector, but Turbo, wants to be girlfriends, and we got to see how the story evolves, and that has been a theme in heterosexual comics forever, and they win each other over at the end, right? How many movies and stories have we seen that, where they fight and they bicker and they go through ups and downs, and then the big kiss scene at the end? So we have to decide, where we're going with this, and I don't know.
Well, I would put this in as my order to hold to. Like any good relationship, it has its ups and downs. It's just it's a constant thing that is growing and changing, and it's and the best relationships are the ones that end up changing us. We end up reflecting on, like, yeah, I'm just not sensitive enough, or I did not see that point of view, or those types of things, where then there can be joy expressed between Turbo and Trophy Girl, along the way in their comic book journey as being saved from the dastardly villains and scenarios and stuff. But there's just also I can kind of see like where there's a real tough situation that they have to get through, and they do at by the end of the episode. But then the beginning of the next episode, they're fighting again. They're arguing or bickering,
Right, and
or
so that's a good
there's always something that they're not seeing eye to eye on.
right, and that's a good segue to the next segment here. Um, as you can see, I'm starting to draw this page here where the berserkers are almost on top of them. This was a flashback, so in the last page here, we end up with Turbo is getting young Turbo is getting kissed, or she's getting seduced by young Embra, and then it's switching.
Feisty Ember.
Right,
No, frisky Ember.
frisky Embra, right, and
I love that.
and then it transitions like snapping out of a dream. Trophy Girl here is going to be reminding her that they have all the hate breeders uh, about to close in on them, and they've got some fighting ahead to do. So this is going to be kind of like an action scene here. Let me back out a little, where they're fighting, and they're going to be eliminating their pursuers one by one. First, they're going to release the mace ball on chains. Then they're going to do some hand to hand, and here we're going to have Turbo is kind of enlisting Trophy Girl into doing some of the work to fight and protect them. And she is going to have to take over the wheel when the robot that drives the van is taken out. So this is where I kind of switched over to a real micro thumbnail style here, just to lay things out. And this might look like real chicken scratch, but here I have one, two, three, four, five, like 6 pages all at once here, and this is kind of how I'm going to block it out, rather than these whole pages, because I'm going to do this first. And what's going to happen is they're going to jump on the roof. They're Turbo, and they're going to smash the window in. Turbo's going to start going hand to hand with them. They're going to start a fire in the cab. Um, and Turbo's going to put it out with one of their bodies, and then throw the body out at some other guys. At this point, Trophy takes the wheel, and they're going up a mountain pass. They get to the point where and they use those little spring mechanism things to clog up their wheels and take some of the motorcycles out. So then they get to the point where there's only 4 left pursuing them. Um, Turbo makes the decision to stop the van and take them on, because if they keep going like that, they were going to blow out the tires. She felt that it was just a matter of time. So here she's like taking them on hand to hand, and this is kind of where I stalled out. I'm just figuring out these action sequences, exactly how she's going to dispatch the last, let's say, 2 of them. I want to make it interesting, but I don't want to take up too many pages. Um, so maybe like another 2 or 3 pages, and then they're going to, they're going to need repairs on the van, and they're going to, and that's why she said to go up the mountain, because this way they can coast down the mountain. And she knows a guy that they can look up, a mechanic who's going to join their party. So now we're going back. So this is as far as I got, and this is now going back to the script. They're going to find Mr. Ike's place. He's going to be joining them, because just as they come upon him, he's going to be having a physical spat with his wife and get thrown out. And he is not, he's not only a mechanic, he's like an inventor, so he can, weaponize Turbo's, gloves, and he can really like fix the van and do all kinds of stuff. But they're going to start making their way to the nationals, which is going to be this big pit fight that they find out about. And they see survival as, going to the next pit fight because you need money. And, money in those days is the radioactive peas. And that powers the van, and that powers the weapons, and that powers, it's not only the energy of the day, it's also the currency of the day. And yeah, so that's it. And where things will kind of convene in the not too distant future is there will be this big pit fight, and that will be like a national pit fight where lots of people will be coming from all over, and we'll be asking the question like, how are these things secured? And if there's like no government and there's no order and there's an army and everything, how does that all work? And the answer will be, it doesn't. It's going to be a mess. And, they're going to be right in the middle of it. And, I guess, we'll see how that unfolds as we kind of go through this little by little. But that's just in the near future in this issue that I'm penciling out right now. So I'm going to need some ideas for, how that hand-to-hand fight gets settled, and just fleshing out all those details along with dialogue about, you know, Trophy, how she sees her future, and breaking away from Turbo versus sticking with her. And she'll have some like heart to hearts with Mr. Ike because it's like a third person now. And so that's all coming up very soon.
So here's a
Yeah.
question. Does she have a Mr. Miyagi Turbo? Like, does she actually have training, a history of training with somebody, fighting wise, or is she just brute force?
Right, she's just survival mode. It gets into that in the very first issue, is that it's just kill or be killed, and it's just survival mode. And she will have a couple of people she looks up to. One of them will be Sister, what was it, Sister Ray? But
Yep.
Sister Ray is very quickly sacrificed at the altar of giving Turbo the weapon, young Turbo the weapon, and then she tells her to go find this other character who will be called Elevena, and she
How do you spell that?
Elevea, no, Ele, here L. It's just like
Yeah, let me see.
Elevena.
Elevania.
Right.
Nice. Okay,
And
cool.
Elevena
Cool. I
will
like that.
be in prison, and young Turbo has to give her the weapon because only she knows how to make it operational. And so she's going to get her the weapon, and they're going to bust her out, and then she will have a period of time where she's in the company of Elevena, who I was thinking of making kind of like an older, like like you're saying, like a Mr. Miyagi type, mentor who could show her a few things. And of course, she'll have her scene where she either dies or goes into the distance somehow because this is all just such a
Is she, is she a glower?
Elevena. I don't know. I don't know.
But it would be kind of cool to put in the back, in the notes on a Gandalf resurrection character, where she leaves as one character, but then can come back as another character, just based on the glow's
You mean Sister Ray
force.
leaves and then Elevena fills that?
It could be that character too. I'm just throwing out something in the way of like defining in a world building way that like glowers, the apocalypse, like our version, just don't lean on things so heavy handedly that people will just, oh, it's apocalypse, oh, these people are different, oh, these are, not that I'm saying that that's what's happening, I'm just saying, if we get these opportunities where we can make something happen that then goes interesting, like, and adds to the
Yeah,
the world.
yeah. I mean, I'm up for
And
all ideas to make this.
that's why I chuck them out there
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm full of
Well,
ideas.
we're not to the point yet where we have to lay out Elavina, what she looks like, what she's acting like. In fact, I don't even think that's going to be an issue too at all. Let me see. No, she's just on the way to the prison. Young Turbo is going to be on the way to prison in flashback, and old Turbo is going to be on her way to the pit fight, the big culminating climactic pit fight. Um, but yeah, well, I mean, I'll do my homework and I'll read what I wrote long ago, and we'll figure this out and we'll start, laying out some ideas. It could be interesting if Elevena is a glower, um, and she could show Turbo a few things about
Or at least
life.
gives a head up. Yeah, it gives like a heads up. Like you do know you're special, and the reason you're special is, and then she only gets some portion of that information, but she has a little bit better understanding of the self.
Right,
Herself as a character, and can kind of keep moving her along that way.
right. So I was thinking about like the science of it, and I I don't know if this is gonna make sense to anybody else, but I drew up this thing where the gun or the weapon will have these two spinning chambers, and there'll be like these radioactive P's, but there's like X and Y, and they're two different types of radioactivity, and when they spin in opposites, or one of them spins around the other one, and when they cross paths with their analog, it creates kind of like an energy thing that goes up these little chambers, and that can, so basically when this thing is spinning, it creates like some kind of force, whether it's heat or light or laser or whatever. And, like Elevena will have like the filter that turns that into like a, you know, directed energy weapon, or let's say, where that force is, harnessed so that it doesn't just like blow the gun apart. It shoots, directionally towards the subject. And so, that'll be the technology that Elavina has been working on, in her secret prison lair or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I don't think, like I think back when I just wrote things like, she busts her out, and then they're on the go, stuff like that. So we really have a lot to fill in here, you know.
But that's one of the funnest parts of, I think, the comic book process is writing yourself, the character in the story, off into a situation where then you have to get them out because you want them to go and do something else. And it's not one of those situations where it's like, and they survived, it's, or just completely pan the what had ever happened, the issue before. Everything becomes contributing to everything. But it doesn't have to be solid state. I mean, I think certain things need to be solid state. But if we're going for a sexploitive story with characters, to help entice a readership. But then once we have them locked in, they're like, wow, this is going to be kind of interesting. How are they going to get to here?
Hmm.
And how are they going to get away from there? And, it becomes a part of the game.
Yeah, definitely,
So,
definitely. When we used to read like heavy metal and like Druna and everything,
oh
we
yeah.
were sucked into the visuals. And then can you imagine if there was a better story to that? I mean, Druna had like such bad writing. It was just a vehicle for her to get into skimpy outfits and and bondage situations and you know imagine if there would have been more of a story. So that's what I'm
Well, I can say this, because that's still one of my favorite comic stories. But I will even say, as a fan of Druna, he didn't do exactly what we're talking about. Literally, each book would basically be not only of its own kind of story arc, but it would tangibly like ignore or contradict other stuff, and then even kind of throw out because it was a Shadazar or Shasta,
right,
I think was her original
right.
lover, and then there's the computer and stuff, but then he starts writing himself in like heavy, big time. He's the artist inventor and the captain of the spaceship where she ends up waking back up and everything. I mean, it's great. I mean, it's great fantasy, sexploitive stuff, but he definitely would have benefited from at least an editor.
Yeah, there's no like characterization. I mean, Druna is just like a blank slate. She's just a beautiful body. And that's the thing. Like I know that's exploitation because everything happens to her. I mean, there might be some sequences where she finally hauls off and kicks some ass or something, but she's just like narrowly escaping one thing after the other. It's like a
Yeah.
bad dream, and
Well, that is a part of it. Yeah, it is like weird memories and things that kind of, yeah.
yeah, I mean,
It's
it was very very creative, and it was very great, visuals and just the style and all that. This is like a real good European, artist, and there's a lot of them like that, like Mobius and Manara and all that. But
yeah.
it just goes where the creator takes them, and this is what happens when you're a person instead of a team. It's
Yes.
like you end up going down these creative rabbit holes, whatever the whim is of the person, and maybe they need a sounding board and they need somebody else to say, I don't know if if your audience is going to be able to follow that, or maybe you should just have these other elements of, more of a formula where you bring it back to like some structure.
Well, I came to that realization uh, the beginning of this year in reflecting on what the hell I was going to do, this year. I always do this at the end of one year and then make plans and growth, so on and so forth. But one of the things I realized in comic book making, and this is just my own confession, is I'm not good at everything.
Right?
And the things I'm not good at stall my project.
Hmm.
So I started thinking to myself, wow, well, what am I really good at? Well, I'm good at drawing, penciling. Not very good. I'm actually, I admit wholeheartedly, not good at all at story and writing. So storyboarding can be some stickiness for me and slows me down. But the inking part, what would be classically referred to as the finishing,
Hmm.
is something that I went, oh, wow. And so I started downloading some public domain comics and started just using them, for keeping myself sharp and inking. And then I think it was literally you called me. It's towards the end of January or beginning of February or something, and I was like, oh my gosh. this is perfect because Jake's going to be able to supply, because he's really, really good at storytelling, because of the class you took with Denny O'Neill.
Yeah,
You know, we
that
talked about
definitely helped.
like that.
Definitely helped.
So, you know, that this story was unfinished. It was something you and I, you know, had started and didn't come back to finish, but we are now. But I'm 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 about ready to start a crusade, and like, let's stop this whole you know, one man band show thing. I mean, there's guys out there that are great, gals too. I'm not saying if you can do it all yourself, do it, but there's just something about that what I'm doing right now, Jake, is very exciting to me because I can put all of my energy into one skill and really, really shine.
Hmm.
And I think that's a very important thing in development when you're you know, trying to get into this. I think there's so much, it's a lie to think that you have to be able to do it all. And I think it's something that I'm going to start kind of going up against and saying, no, you don't have to be good at
Don't be a
everything.
hero.
Find, yeah, you know, but find what you are passionate about and want to get better at, and then, you know, find the place where you can grow in it. So, and I'm definitely going to be taking that on and talking more about that. And as I do say that, we are coming on the 45-minute mark.
Look out!
What the hell is right? So I forgot to add, we got to, oh man, the one thing I love about, as soon as you come on line, I just want to start talking. And so I think both of us just start moving too quickly to actually, like, hi, my name is Kurt Brugel and I'm inking, and hi, I'm Jake Jacobs and I'm writing and penciling. You know, we don't do that, but we probably will at some point. But the most important part is episode 3 just went up. So this is episode 10, part 2 of our Should We Become Sexploitationists? And we'll come back to that topic. But every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we upload a new episode to our YouTube channel. So please come and join us on this how to make a comic book, which is right now Turbo Pit Fighter. So instead of just kind of, you know, saying, we're actually here showing, you know, what it takes, even if it's just every Sunday for an hour or two, getting on the pages and, you know, getting something done. Because at my 80% mark, I think I even went beyond out to about 90% on this page. So I'm pretty excited. So with that being said, I say goodbye. Jake, what do you say?
I say farewell.
All right. Again, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.
Peace.